Welcome to Cyber Bytes, your weekly dose in the latest cybersecurity news. I'm your host, Edwin Kwan, and today we're covering 5 important topics. We're going to be talking about Australia's financial regulator cracking down on superannuation fund security after a wave of cyber attacks. We'll talk about a sprawling dark ad network being exposed. We'll talk about Apple patching a zero-click iMessage flaw, the notorious Scatter Spider group pivoting to a different industry, and a massive JavaScript malware campaign infecting over 250,000 websites using a wild new obfuscation trick. So let's get right into it. So first up, a major move from Australia's financial regulator. APRA, the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, has issued an urgent directive to all superannuation funds. Why are they doing this? Because a series of damaging credential stuffing attacks earlier this year exposed some serious gaps in the sector's cyber defenses. The deputy chair said that current security measures just aren't keeping up with the evolving threat landscapes. And we're talking about the personal data and retirement savings of millions of Australians being at risk. So what is APRA demanding? Superannuation funds must implement multi-factor authentication or equivalent protections for all high-risk member activities. Now that includes changes to personal details, withdrawals, benefit payments, transfers, and investment switching. The enhanced authentication isn't just for customers. Administrative and privileged system access also needs beefing up. And the solution must be accessible to disadvantaged groups and those who might avoid digital channels. The funds have until the end of August to identify and report any remaining security weaknesses. The clock is ticking and the message is clear. Get secure right now. Now on to our next story, where we'll talk about a cyber criminal ecosystem that's as sophisticated as it is insidious. Security researchers have uncovered a massive dark advertising network powered by a fake CAPTCHA challenge. So users are tricked into thinking they're solving a CAPTCHA to access a website. In reality, they are enabling malicious push notifications that will then bombard their device with virus alerts and pop-ups. This network is centered on the infamous Vextrail traffic disruption system and is deeply intertwined with Russian disinformation campaigns. The Doppelganger network, for example, pushes pro-Russian narratives via cloned news sites using the same infrastructure as online scammers. Affiliate networks like Los Polos and Taco Loco, they play a big role, distributing JavaScript-heavy smart links through hacked WordPress sites. The victims are then funneled into a web of dating scams, fake sweepstakes, malware downloads, and financial fraud. When these operations were exposed late last November, the criminals didn't miss a bit. They just rebranded, they shifted their infrastructure, and they kept going. Los Polos suspended push notifications, Ads Pro became aimed global, and malware operators pivoted to a new traffic systems. This adaptability, combined with the Russian nexus, means these networks aren't just spreading malware. They're fueling global misinformation campaigns and billions in consumer fraud every year. Now, let's talk about a story that's making waves in the tech and media circles. Apple has patched a critical zero-click vulnerability in its iMessage app after it was actively exploited to target European journalists with an Israeli-made spyware. The flaw, tracked as CVE 2025 43200, let attackers compromise iPhones by sending malicious photos or videos by iCloud links and there's no user interaction is required. Security researchers confirm that an Italian journalist and another prominent European journalist were targeted in January and February this year. The attackers used iMessage from the same Apple account to deploy Paragon's Graphite spyware. Now, this spyware can access messages, emails, cameras, microphones, and location data, and it does that completely undetected. Apple patched the vulnerability on February 10 across iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, and visionOS, but they didn't publicly disclose the active exploitation until now. Both journalists were only notified by Apple's threat notification system in late April. Now, this comes as scrutiny grows around commercial spyware and its use against journalists and civil society members. WhatsApp had already revealed in January that Paragon's tools were used against dozens of users globally. Now, on to our next story. Let's talk about Scattered Spider. This is a criminal gang group that's becoming infamous for its relentless social engineering attacks. Google's threat intel has warned that Scattered Spider has shifted its focus from retail to the US insurance sector. Multiple insurance companies, including Erie Insurance and Philadelphia Insurance Company, have reported significant network outages and security incidents since early June. Erie Insurance, the 12th largest home and auto insurer in the US, first reported problems on June the 8th. Philadelphia Insurance Companies detected suspicious activity a day later and proactively disconnected affected systems. Scattered Spider is notorious for fake help desk calls and social engineering schemes. They target one industry at a time, and they use highly convincing phone-based attacks to gain initial access and then deploy ransomware like DragonForce once they're inside. Now, why target insurance? Well, I think it's because these companies handle vast amounts of sensitive personal and financial data, making them a goldmine for cyber criminals. Google's recommendations include enhancing help desk training, implementing phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication, and being on high alert for manipulation attempts, especially at help desks and call centers. If you are in insurance or any critical sector, now's the time to double down on your defenses. And now, let's talk about our last story, which is a massive malware campaign that has swept across the web, compromising over 269,000 legitimate websites in just 1 month. The attackers use a novel JavaScript obfuscation technique dubbed JS Firetruck, which only uses 6 characters to write executable code. The malicious script checks how visitors arrive at the site. If you came from a search engine such as Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, or AOL, you're redirected to those malicious URLs. These can deliver more malware, exploit kits, and even cryptocurrency fraud. This selective targeting helps attackers maximize impact while evading detection by security researchers, who often visit these sites directly rather than through search engines. This campaign is part of a broader trend where attackers are increasingly leveraging legitimate website infrastructure to distribute malware, fake capture pages, tech support scams, and more. What does this mean? It means that even trusted websites can become attack vectors overnight. If you're a website owner, make sure you keep your software up to date and monitor for suspicious change. If you're a web user, like myself, be wary of unexpected redirects and pop-ups, especially after clicking through from a search engine. And that's it for this week's Cyber Bytes. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and I'll catch you next week for more cyber news you can't afford to miss.